This story is real sad, and I hate to be the one to say this, and I know other people are saying this, but I think this is going to continue to happen as long as we have people thinking that, oh, we had a black president, Obama, he was the president, oh, things have changed, oh, racism is going away, there's no more racism, there's no more KKK. And if we have black people who pretty much their head is in the sand, and people of color of all walks of life that from other parts of the world feel as though we've advanced, think again. I really do feel in this political climate, the way things are going, we're going backwards in time. And it is, it was off to a slow start, but now I think it's kicking into high gear where we're going to have to talk to our children. We're going to have to, converse with them and have a heart-to-heart about being careful of what company they keep. And you have to do your research on people. You have to know who you're associating with and what their behaviors are, what they were like with other people. Really, really do your research. And there's just some people, even if you can't find anything on them, you just, in this political climate, the way things are, and that being, we're in the Trump era, the way things have been, this is just not it. We gotta stop pretending like racism is gone. It is not gone. It never has left. And in fact, it is really getting worse, and it is starting to get more pronounced, where we have no other way to look at this, but this is very suspicious. So if you see these articles here, a lot of people are talking about the Nolan Wells case. Parents of Nolan Wells found dead on an island don't believe that he chose to stay behind. That's not his character. Just 10 minutes ago, that was out of CBS News. And then parents of Nolan Wells call for a thorough investigation amid unanswered questions about son's suspicious death. That's out of ABC News. And Nolan Wells loved on Speak Out days after, and I think it's kind of cut off, but this is NBC News. He was found dead in Mississippi. So this story is blowing up, and I just listened to, I believe it was the Don Lemon show, and he was speaking to Ben Crump, who is the lawyer. He usually deals with civil rights cases such as this one, and I believe he is working on this one. They're right now currently getting the body of Nolan Wells prepared for an independent autopsy, and they don't trust the final judgment of the Mississippi people and their autopsy report, because they don't want them to sweep this thing under the rug because they find that this is a suspicious death. So here it says Nolan Wells' loved ones, they speak out days after the teen was found dead in Mississippi. So that was one of the articles. I guess I must have touched it. But this is a picture of Nolan Wells. He, I believe he was a football player. They said he was in really great shape and that he was very athletic. And he was getting ready for, I guess, a big event in sports. And so that's what I was hearing when I was listening to the Don Lemon show with Ben Crump. And they really have a lot, they as in the parents have a lot of unanswered questions. So it says Nolan Wells with his parents right here at the top. And so this is a really sad story. This is NBC News right here. And so this is by a Marlene Lenthang and Rebecca Cohen. And so I guess that's where that article is coming. But I think this is a really great picture right here. So I guess this is a video, and it talks about it. It says listen to the article. You can listen to the article. So Wells was a good kid with a bright future and lots of friends, and his parents told NBC News that many questions remain unanswered about the death during the July 4th weekend. So let me go back to this article here. So let's see. So it says parents of Nolan Wells teen found dead on the island don't believe he chose to stay behind. That's not in his character. So this is by a Mark Osborne, and so this was updated July the 10th, so this is fairly recent. So the parents of the Mississippi teen Nolan Wells, who was found dead after going missing following an outing on Horn Island on the 4th of July, said that they don't believe that their son would have stayed behind on the island by choice when his friends left by boat. So no, he wouldn't. Nolan's always stays with the group. So Elmore Wansley, Nolan's father, told CBS News, or CBS Morning News. So if you be with me, you come back with me. So that I don't understand. And with me being a parent, if I was in that situation, I would have told them, you're going to get on this boat with me because I don't want to answer to your parents. You're going to get back on this boat with me because I don't want to answer to your parents if something happens to you. So basically they're kind of going over the scenario that they don't really believe that he would have stayed behind and allowed his friends to go and he not go back with them. And the father, in other words, doesn't feel like, and the mother doesn't feel like that this story is being told correctly by the friends, that there's some unanswered questions and they're going to get to the bottom of it. So I believe there's an investigation underway, and also with the public speaking out on the issue, a lot of people are looking at this case. So this is a high profile case, I would say. So it says, when directly asked if he believed Nolan was left behind on the island, his father responded, yes. I don't believe that he decided to stay on the island by himself. It just doesn't. That's not in his character, basically what the dad is saying, and the mother. So they said that's just not like him to just stay behind like that. So Nolan Wells, he was found dead. He was 18 years of age, spending the 4th of July celebrating with his friends on a boat on the Horn Island, in Horn Island, Mississippi. And so I guess this is a picture of him here. Excuse me for that. I'm kind of panning up. But this story is such a hot button topic right now, and it's being talked about all over social media, and a lot of people are looking at this. I mean, there's no escaping this story. I mean, I would imagine right now that all of the people that are involved are trying to get lawyers, some kind of legal representation for this, because this right here is not going to go away anytime soon. And it's sad. I think this page is stuck, so I don't know. I might have to jump to another article. So this is a sad story, you guys. I might have to jump back and then jump back into the article. And maybe they don't want, maybe whoever's over this doesn't want me to read the rest of the article, but everybody already knows about it now. So on the side here, it says Nolan Wells' parents say they don't believe that he decided to stay on the island by himself, which that makes sense. Why would he want to stay on the island all by himself? That story doesn't even make sense. I don't think anybody would want to just do that, especially if they went with a group of friends to celebrate and then all of a sudden they decide, oh, I'm going to stay by myself. You guys go back. That story sounds made up or fabricated. So there's got to be some unanswered questions. What I was hearing more recently, since this story is like kind of lagging, I'll try to see if I can load it up again. Because it's all over the internet. There's nothing you can do to break away from this story. No matter what they try to do to try to sweep this is not going to be swept under the rug. So I'm going to try to jump over to this one right here to see if maybe this one will be successful. No, this one might not be, because I think I was on that one. I'm trying to find one. Let's see, 25 minutes ago. Some of the stories are coming out. So it says they're coming out one after the other. So one was like a couple of days ago. And then the other one, it was like 25 minutes ago. So I guess it's developing constantly, this story, because they're all over covering this story like everywhere. Now Al Sharpton is in this one right here. Tyler Perry, Colin Kaepernick among those assisting in this. So this story is not going away. And there's Ben Crump. So I'm glad that I went to this one, because that's who I was listening to earlier when I was listening to the Don Lemon show, and they were talking about there was also an argument, and I'm also hearing something about a cell phone, and that I don't know if this is true or not, but let me get into this article right here. So Nolan Wells' parents voice concern about son's mysterious death. Okay, that's what it's being called. So now Tyler Perry is getting involved. Famous people are getting involved. When famous people are getting involved in a story like this ain't going away. So the Wells family attorney, Ben Crump, so he is the acting attorney on this, and Al Sharpton held a news conference to call for the full, transparent, and urgent investigation on the Nolan Wells case. So by Wilcox News staff, Jordan Gartner. So this was published July 10th, which is today. So this was 9 minutes ago. So Jackson County, Mississippi. So new details have been released following the death of the 18-year-old Nolan Wells, whose body was found Monday after going missing on Horn Island over 4th of July weekend. So Wells' parents, Christine and Elmore Wansley, joined a press conference on Friday about the ongoing investigation into their son's death, saying that they have their concerns. The news conference also included attorney Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton. So it was held in New York, with the team calling for a full, transparent, urgent investigation into the 18-year-old's death. And these are the parents. You see to the right is Al Sharpton, and then to the left is Ben Crump, the attorney that they have on the case. So I'll just say this: if Ben Crump is involved and Al Sharpton and well-known people that are, celebrities are now getting involved, this is not going to go away. So it has raised a lot of eyebrows. So Sharpton said that what he had been told to them so far did not make sense, with much of the news conference focused on families' concerns about transparency and contradictions in the investigation. So some of the concerns shared were that the Wells' supposed choice to stay behind on the island. They claim that this boy, he said he wanted to stay behind. So the process of retrieving his cell phone and keys from the friends' houses, an alleged argument at the island. So I did hear that there was an argument and something about the cell phone. So when and where Wells' body washed up ashore, and about Mississippi law enforcement being the one to investigate the case with possible racial undertones. So I'm going to stop for a minute and then I'll go on and proceed with the article. But Mississippi, that's the place where Emmett Till was killed. So it has a checkered past, I would say, a really horrible history of lynchings. And, black men, black women getting murdered. over, racism. So I'll say this again. This is very suspicious, and I'm also hearing that this is not the only situation that has happened this recently. So there's been others that are getting closer and closer together, where I believe, I don't know the whole story, but I do know bits and pieces, that there was a young lady, a black woman, who went on a little excursion with a group of white girlfriends, and she ended up dead. And they all act like they don't know what happened. So I don't know the whole full story. I will get back on that and find out what happened in that. But I believe there were unanswered questions with that. So this is the thing. People are full aware that these stories are all sounding alike. They make it seem like they're like fatal accidents or coincidences and things like that. But they happen to be black people with a group of white people. And that is what is making people wonder, like, what is going on here? Well, there's really no wondering. We as black people have a strong suspicion that it isn't accidental, that it is more deliberate than accident. So I will go back into the story. It says, you say don't rush the judgment, but saying it was racism, right? So pretty much what I was saying, but don't rush the judgment saying it was not racism as well at the same time, because we do know, Sharpton said, we want justice, let the chips fall where they may. So Crump said that his team is leading an independent investigation into the Nolan Wells story and case on behalf of the family, including the independent autopsy as well that took place in Washington, D.C. or in D.C. So it's a lived experience for many black Americans that often times when our children are killed in highly questionable situations, there is this notion that there is nothing wrong, no foul play. Let's just sweep it under the rug, Crump said. But we refuse to let them sweep it under the rug, and we refuse that Nolan Wells' death will be in vain. So this is Nolan Wells, the 18-year-old pictured in the middle, and his father at left and his mother at right. And so authorities are searching for the 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells, who was last seen Saturday, July 4th around 3 p.m. on Horn Island, according to the Jackson County Sheriff, John Ledbetter. So they did find his body, and I don't know if this is true. I also heard that they said his body looked like it had been tortured. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I heard it somewhere. So maybe some of that will come out. So that's not confirmed, so I will say that. But someone was saying that his body looked like there was something that had took place. And it doesn't look like an accident. So independent autopsy results were expected Friday, but Crump said that there was a delay due to the canceled flights. So Crump said that his team will announce the results as soon as they have them. According to Crump, former NFL player and civil rights activist Colin Kaepernick contributed funding towards the independent autopsy as well. So they are dead serious about this. So this is to let you know this ain't going away. So filmmaker and comedian Tyler Perry is also said to be helping to pay for the funeral cost as well. So Reverend Al Sharpton said filmmaker Spike Lee also is involved, has also shown his support. So Wells' family wanted to make sure that they had a doctor who had no ties to the Mississippi law enforcement, which sounds like if they don't want Mississippi involved in it and they want an independent autopsy, that Mississippi, there's some corruption that possibly might be going on out there, and the locals know. So that's the reason why they're doing independent autopsy and everything else. So because I will say this, what I've known in my experience is I myself grew up around mostly white children, and grew up enough to know and learn about some of that culture. And a lot of times the parents are like judges, lawyers, doctors, and involved in law enforcement and the DA sometimes, and they cover up their kids' mess. So I will say that. So that is probably smart of this family to do that and to seek help outside of the state of Mississippi, being it that Mississippi has had that history of racial violence and undertones towards the Black American people, or people that are Black period, and people of color. So I think that was the best move on their part, and I'll say it as such. Because you have to know who your associates are. You have to know the history of people, and if you know the history of that culture and the country where you're on, which you're or the state you're in, then you know to get an outside opinion or outside investigation going, because you know you're not going to get the truth out of the devil. So that's pretty much my being objective with this. That's my opinion on that. So it says Wells' mother, Christine Wansley, said that when law enforcement told her and her husband it was most likely an accidental drowning, it made them feel uncomfortable. And you got to follow your gut when you feel that something isn't right about a person or something they're telling you, and you know they're not being forthright and they're not being transparent. Then you go outside of that and you go with something else that you know is going to be honest, or at least close to honest as possible. Because if you're a local and you know that state, and you know the history, and you know what you've seen, and you know what your personal experience life has been, because other people have different sets of experiences, but you know what you've experienced there, being the locals in that area, and you know there's been issues with law enforcement, and I'm starting to see that in a lot of places outside of Mississippi, which is very scary. But in the political climate that we're in, you have to wonder, okay, should we go outside and get a second opinion, or not even an opinion. We need to get another investigation going, because these people right here, we really just don't feel comfortable with. We don't trust. Let's just be honest. We don't trust what they say to you, because you got to see, it's more what they do, not what they say. So we've seen what has happened in the past with Mississippi, so we're not going with what they're going to say and then leaving it at that, and then just saying, oh, it was an accident. And you know your child as a parent. You know what your child's capabilities are. So you know if your child is going to say, oh, I'm going to stay behind and let my friends leave me on an island. It doesn't make sense. Even just common sense, thinking about it, doesn't make sense the way they said it. So it sounds like somebody's not telling the truth. Let's just say that. So why are we so quick to rush to this? Wansley asked. So the Jackson County Sheriff Office shared earlier this week that it suspected that Wells drowned, but no official cause of death has been released. So that's raises red flags right there. So results from the autopsy, which was conducted Tuesday by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office, are currently pending. So Crump, he said that his team hasn't reached out to the other boys on the boat who were reported to be with Wells at the time of this supposed accident, or whatever they claim. So, but that the boys also have attorneys. Of course they have attorneys, and don't be surprised if they already had attorneys, because they already know the attorneys and their parents are friends with their attorneys and law enforcement in Mississippi as well. So they've told those boys to not say anything and to be quiet, and those parents said, we'll handle it. And they already had attorneys lined up for them. I'm just letting you know, because I know how those people are, because I part of the way grew up with them. So they have attorneys. Oh yeah, they're ready for whatever drops in the hat. So when their kids cut up or they get in trouble, they got attorneys out there if they're friends with him, it's just like the situation with the other young fella that had the situation at the high school, where the father is friends with the lawyers. That's not a surprise. For me, I saw that coming. I was like, he probably already knows the attorneys. They're friends. They eat dinner together and they talk and they shoot the breeze. They've been probably hang out at the same spots together. And that's usually they come from prominent backgrounds. They have money and power. And so when they mess up, they get the lawyers involved. And the lawyers are not just people they gotta find. These are people they know. So I told you that's what was going to happen. So it says Crump said that his team hasn't reached out to these other boys, and they won't. They're not going to talk. So Crumps also said that they had talked to the other people who were out there on Horn Island July 4th. So he also said that his team is still searching for more photos and videos from the day that it occurred. According to the Crump's team, currently has Wells' phone. They have his phone for their own investigation, but will turn it over to the Mississippi investigator once they're done with it. So investigators said that the Wells was last seen alive, Nolan Wells, July 4th around 3 p.m. on Horn Island while with his friends on the boat before his body was found Monday morning by a park ranger. So the 18-year-old's mother shared a post on Facebook confirming the loss earlier this week. My heart is broken for my sweet son, who was always willing to cheer and uplift others, she said. So Nolan was a special soul. God took his time creating our son, so I asked that you please give me and my family time to grieve. So right now they're grieving. So Wells' mother reported that him missing late on Saturday night, leading the massive search. And she said that her son was the kindest soul who loved everyone and never met a stranger. So basically, I guess he was very friendly and he was outgoing, and he was, he had a lot of friends. So this is not how I wanted the world to meet my son, but here we are. Christine Wansley shared at Friday's news conference. So he just wanted everyone to be at peace with one another, and he loved life. So Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter said the investigation remains active and asked that the public to allow time for the case to develop. So they're still on the case, and both, I guess, parties are still doing the investigation as we speak. So I'll assure you that the Jackson County Sheriff Office is looking at the whole case just like we would any other case, Ledbetter said. So, and we're going to be as thorough as we can. So Ledbetter said that his office is working toward the same goal as the family. So that's pretty much the article. But it's crazy. So this is a famous picture, I'll say now, because our infamous picture that a lot of people have seen this photo of him when they were going on this trip. And I also heard that there was one of the friends said that he had a group of white friends and he had a group of black friends. And the group of black friends, one of them said that group that he was with, that Nolan Wells was with, the young white guys were known to have drinking activities going on and substances, allegedly. So from that, what I'm hearing is that this kid, Nolan Wells, he was an athlete and he was getting ready for a big event. And with a big event like that, you cannot have alcohol and you can't have any drugs in your system. So what I heard is there was a fight that had ensued, something about the cell phone. More and more is still developing, coming out about it, and that they claim that he said he wanted to be left on the island by himself, and then it's bits and pieces and little bits and pieces, little chunks here and there. And from what some people were saying, that there might have been an argument over them trying to persuade Nolan to use narcotics, allegedly. So, and he probably refused, and they got an attitude behind it. These kids are from the backgrounds of parents that are well financially paid, financially stable backgrounds. And so each of the parties have lawyers already lined up, and these kids have been told not to talk to anyone, that to let the investigators and let the lawyers and everyone else in their legal teams handle the situation. I'm believing that's where they're at right now. And I will tell you this, I've seen this before. I've seen it, and it's like a textbook thing. Usually these young people like this that come from backgrounds where the parents are wealthier tend to have a lot of free access to the world, so to speak. They're able to get away with things because the thing is, oh, my dad's a judge, my dad's law enforcement, my dad is a DA, a public defender, or he's a politician. We'll fix it. Anything goes wrong, we can fix it. So that is what I've known. So good luck to this, but I believe I have a strong belief that Ben Crump, he's the saving grace of this story, of many of these stories. And if anyone would do some real thorough investigating, and if any situation where there arise that they needed somebody to be the person to speak up on a case like that, it would be Ben Crump. It would be Ben Crump. But this, I also agree with the parents. It is questionable. It's a suspicious death. It looks to me like it's a murder. And this is my opinion, that someone's trying to cover it up, and it's sad. And I feel like more of this is going to happen. More and more of this is going to happen. And I wish the parents well. I wish everyone well in this situation. And it's going to take a long time to really, really heal from this. But the scary part of this, I think this is racialized. It's kicking into high gear, and Crump is right. He says we don't want to rush judgment, but we also don't want to sweep anything under the rug, and he is absolutely correct on that.